I love saving glass jars to use them to store stuff around the house or for crafts. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I made some snowflake inspired winter glass jar decor. I start by putting on 1 or 2 coats of my white homemade chalk paint. I use the chalk paint because it's more durable than other paints that can be prone to chipping, peeling, or cracking. I also like using the white because it gives it a nice base to start with. Especially if you're using lighter colors, it makes it easier to put the lighter color over the white and you don't have to use so many coats of paint. I usually use a chip brush for this or sometimes a higher quality paintbrush, just depending on how many I'm painting at a time. In between coats, a quick tip is to wrap the brush in some saran wrap or plastic wrap because that prevents it from drying out as you're waiting for your jars to dry. You could also use a heat gun in between coats. I find that really works to speed up the process, and as you can see, I have a fan blowing on mine as well. There can be some rough edges sometimes with using the chalk paint, so I make sure to go around and just get any of those little knobs off, depending on the final look that you're going for. Once the bottles are dry, I'm going to apply a basic acrylic craft paint. These are the brand Folk Art and I get them on Amazon. I like this style paint because it's still inexpensive, but it's a little bit better quality than the ones you can find at your local craft store. When I'm crafting, I love using items I have around the house. So this is actually an applesauce cup that I'm using to pour my paint into. When applying the paint, I like to use a foam brush because it doesn't leave many streaks. If you're looking for clean lines, the foam brush can actually help with this as well. I like to start at the bottom of the jar and then work my way up. As I'm going over the lettering of the glass jar, I make sure to dab in the paint with the foam brush so that it covers it well. For these bottles, I'm going with a more primitive look, so as I'm painting, I'm not worrying too much about making them pristine. I'm letting some of those streaks shine through where you can see the white paint underneath. Again, I use my heat gun to speed in the process of the paint drying, and then I'm going to start adding some snowflakes using some stencils that I have. I have a variety of stencils that I use for different projects, so I just kind of went through my stash and found a few snowflakes that I thought would look cute on the bottles. I've seen a lot of different methods for stenciling, and using stencils on glass jars can be pretty tricky because of their rounded edges and all of the lettering. But what I found what works best for me is actually using a makeup sponge. I bought a whole pack of these at Target for just a couple dollars, and when I'm done with them, I can just throw them away. I always make sure to blot off a lot of that extra paint either on a paper towel or the rag that I'm using so that a lot of the paint doesn't seep through the edges of the stencil as I'm going through. To finish the bottles, I added some white yarn on top and some laser cut snowflakes that I painted to match the color of the bottles. These can be added to your winter decor as is, or you can use them to display some flowers or greenery throughout the winter time. Happy crafting!